going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am Corey, one half of HisHerbs, and we're just some small time, soon to be big time gardeners growing food in the high desert of Southern California. And today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be planting some watermelon in containers. Okay, we had some really good success last year growing watermelon in containers, and we actually got a full-size melon. We got a full-size melon. I don't know what it was. I really don't know what it was. I think it was a Georgia rattlesnake, and the reason why I think that is just because of the stripes on the melon. That's of all the melon that we planted, that's the only one that looks like that. So we're gonna call that a Georgia rattlesnake. What I wanted to do is walk you through the process that we did last year to have success with those melons. All right, so let's get into this real quick. So first and foremost, the first thing you need to consider is what kind of melon you're growing. If you're growing a melon that's like a larger melon like what we grew last year, you got to keep in mind you're going to need a bigger container. You're going to need a container. This is a 22-inch planter. You can use something like one of these however many gallon totes or bins, but you're going to need something larger, something around this size. I would say the more the merrier, no matter what kind of melon you're growing, because the larger the container, the more room it has for the roots to develop, for the roots to stretch out and grow, right? Which means more nutrient uptake and all that good stuff. So a happy plant produces large melons, or produces the melons that you want. So that's the number one thing you have to consider is what kind of melons you're growing. If you're growing a sugar baby, crimson sweet, something along those lines, you can probably get away with using a 5-gallon bucket. Should be no problem. So last year we had a Georgia rattlesnake, and it was in a 22-inch planter like this. Okay. In that video, I showed you guys where at the bottom of the planter, you look at the bottom of the planter, it had roots coming out of each one of these holes. Okay, so I was like, okay, typically we've grown watermelon before and directly in this soil. Like we would dig a hole and put in some good soil, and the watermelon would grow, but then it would stall out. You know, it only get to a certain size, and then it would ripen at that size when it was supposed to be a larger melon. So originally I thought that the melons didn't like this soil, but then last year it grew tap roots out of the hole, and that was the largest melon that we had. So maybe it wanted a combination of the two different types of soil. What I'm gonna do this year is I'm gonna put a hole smack dab in the middle of this planter, right? I'm gonna just use it, my old rusty paddle bit, okay? And I'm gonna put a hole right in the middle to give it room for that taproot to grow out into the soil, so I can see what happens, right? I'm expecting the same thing to happen from last year, but now instead of the taproot trying to come out of one of these smaller holes, it's gonna have a bigger hole. I know this larger hole not only is going to provide room for the taproot to come through the bottom and into the soil, but it's also going to make it make the water drain out a lot faster. And I'm cool with that, because I'm just going to make sure I stay on top of this water. All right, so that's the one new thing that I'm doing differently this year. So last year I grew watermelon last spring. In the fall we grew some greens in here, so I'm pretty sure that the nutrient content of this soil is probably pretty low, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and amend this planter with some fresh compost and manure. So I've already emptied about half of it out, right? It's already halfway gone, and I'm going to come through now and throw some more manure in here. For those of you who don't have access to fresh, composted manure from somebody locally, just go back, grab your favorite bag soil. Grab your favorite bag soil from one of the big box stores, and grab you a bag of manure from there, whether it be the Black Cow or that store's brand, or whatever brand they have. Just grab you some composted manure from there and do the same thing. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Okay, it's all providing nutrients. I'm just fortunate enough to have access to get this stuff for free, right? All right, so that's the manure. Now I'm going to add a layer of compost. Because remember, melons are heavy feeders. No matter how big or small they are, they're heavy feeders. So you want to make sure that your stuff is jam-packed with nutrients so that, you know, it has everything that it needs to grow. Because you ain't growing this to get small melons, right? You're doing this so you can get the size melon you want. Now that's nice and topped off, right? I'm gonna save a few more inches so I can add some mulch, and then it'll be fine. We're not planting melons right now because it is still getting down to the low 40s at night, and melons like for it to be 55 plus in the soil at night before you start to put them outside, and that may be pushing it. So we're not planting melons right now, but we're doing this video because I do understand that some people are starting their melons for the first time. First-time gardeners are starting their melons, and they're in a place where they can start their melons. It's warm. It's already warm. It's melon season for them right now. All right, and this is just to help give those guys a kind of an edge, and it's also helping anybody else who may be in a zone like I am, where they haven't planted it yet, but it's on their mind, and they want to know all they can before they start. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant this melon here. This is a Jubilee melon that got a little leggy on me, right? It got a little leggy on me. So I'm going to plant it just to see how it turns out and for the sake of illustration. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to dig a hole because my cup is not filled with soil. I'm going to dig a hole that's as deep as the soil level of this cup. I'm going to dig this hole, put this in. It's about right. That's about right where it needs to be, right? It's about right where it needs to be. The soil levels are about flush. Go ahead and take this cup out, and now I got a perfect hole to put my watermelon in. Easy. So what I'm gonna do now, before I do any of that, is I'm going to add a little bit of bone meal to the hole. All right. I try to do this with everything. Add a little bit of bone meal there. I try to do this with everything that we plant. Sometimes I forget because I am human. I'm gonna add some Azomite, just a little bit. You know, you probably wondering why am I adding such a little bit of Azomite. I'll show you in just a second. All right. So that's normally I will add blood meal to this as well, but I don't have any, so not gonna lose any sleep over it. Trust me, it's gonna be just fine. All right. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take my melon out of the cup. You can see it already got a decent root system. Could be better, but it has a decent root system already on it. So I'm gonna just drop that in the hole, and we're gonna backfill. All right, I'm gonna prop that up a little bit. So this is, now keep in mind, guys, like we're doing this with the watermelon start, but you don't have to use the watermelon start. If I was doing this from seed, I would use the same exact procedure. I would make sure that my bed has all the good organic matter as it can hold, and then I would just plant my seed and wait for it to sprout. Okay. The last thing I'm gonna add is some of this biochar. Okay. We'll take some of this biochar. Well, I'm sorry, one of the last two things. I'm not gonna use a whole lot. Not gonna use a whole lot of biochar. Okay. I'm take some of this biochar, and I'm gonna just plant it and dig it in right around this area here. And I'm gonna cover it back up. You don't need a lot of biochar, y'all. You don't need a lot, because it's gonna stay in there and continue to break down forever, right? For years and years and years. So as long as you continue to water it and provide it with microbial life, it's gonna continue to get absorbed and into the biochar and feed your garden. I'm gonna add just a little bit of worm castings Scratch that into the surface. That's it, y'all. Got some worm castings in here, got some biochar, some bone meal, and some azomite rock dust. So now going back to why did I use that little bit of azomite rock dust and the bone meal, is because that biochar is already chock full of rock dust, alfalfa meal, worm casting tea, some other compost tea. It has so much stuff in it already that I don't need to add a lot more to this soil. Okay, I added that to kind of just give it a little quick boost, so that as the roots stretch down, they hit it, they can uptake some of those nutrients that's already ready available for them. Okay, and if you are wondering what biochar is and how to make it, I will put a link on the screen so that you guys can check out that video of me actually making the biochar. Something I forgot to mention, that this is going to be a series. This is not going to be a one-hitter quitter video, right? This is going to be a video walking you all the way through from planting, like what we just did, all the way to harvest. So once this plant starts to grow, I'm going to show you how I feed it, what I continue to feed it. We're going to show you how to prune your plant, and all the way up to the point how to protect your melon once they're on the vine, once you actually have melons developing, all the way to harvest, like I said. So stay with us on this series if you want to grow melons in containers, because this is going to be, like I said, it's going to cover all aspects of that, so that you'll have everything that you need every year on growing melons in containers. All right, y'all. So that's it. That is it for the containers, the melons in containers. I know everybody doesn't have the space, so hopefully this helps those that are limited on space be able to grow some melons in containers. If you found this video useful, you guys know what to do. Hit the like button. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so that you can stay current on the video series that's coming out about the melons in containers. And we will see you guys in the next video. Love y'all. Peace out.